We're going to touch on the carnivore diet and inflammation in the body today, but specifically around a condition called plantar fasciitis. Have you ever woken up with really sore feet in the morning and it takes a few steps for that pain to go away? Well, if you've had that, that's plantar fasciitis. And here's a quick tip to help manage that. What's shaking, bacon? So in today's video, I'm going to start with a bit of an update. My name is Bruno Panucci. I've been doing this carnivore diet for almost a year and 3 months. Consistently, I've been doing it on and off for years before that. And I got to say, one of the things that this works great for is inflammation. Within a few days, inflammation dramatically reduces in the body. For me, how it works is the first day, at the end of the day, it gets worse. The second day of being on a carnivore diet, it gets even worse. For me, it was in my ankles, and my ankles would just ache and burn at the end of the night. And by the third day, I was like, oh man, what is this? This is just intense. I've never felt this intense before. And by day 4, I'd wake up. It was like the humidity going away after a storm. The inflammation was virtually gone from my joints, especially my ankles, where I felt it the most. Now, I always thought that was because I was a big guy, so I was up to 450 pounds at one point. So I just assumed, naturally, big guy, my ankles are going to take a beating. Here's how I know it was the carnivore diet that got rid of the pain, because it was by day 4, I felt great. I walked up and down the stairs. I didn't have to use the railing. I didn't have to put a hand on the wall for balance. And I had only lost 10 pounds, 5 or 10 pounds. Most of that was water weight. And that's how I know it wasn't a weight related issue, because I was still around 450 pounds when I did that. That's how I know inflammation is managed under the carnivore diet. And when you get your tests done, like inflammatory markers, you'll start to see in your paperwork and how your hormones start balancing out and how your health conditions start going away, that your body starts getting less inflamed, and then it can start healing itself. But in today's video, I'm going to start with a bit more of an update about what's been happening since I've seen you last. So it was pretty cool. Last January, I made a bunch of homemade Italian sausage. And from that sausage, I started with pig shoulders. From there, I would take the shoulders and I would debone them, and you take a muscle out of there, and it's called the copa muscle. It's one particular muscle, and you take that muscle and you put it to the side, and you're going to cure that later. But with the rest of it, you mix it all together, make it ground pork, and then from there, you turn it into sausage. What happens with that other muscle that I've removed from the shoulder is I cure it, and I did 7 different cured shoulder muscles this time. I took the shoulder muscle, put salt all over it, put them in tubs, and I let it cure for about a week. And then from there, you take it and you wash it off, and then you wash as much salt off as you can, and then you dry it down, you pat it down, and then you season it. And I just use a little bit of black pepper because I'm trying to watch my black pepper. So I use a little bit of black pepper. I used a couple different types of paprika, and I use a chili powder, and that's pretty much it. And it's really easy to do. And then you stuff it in like a skin, and then you tie that, hang it, and every couple days you turn it upside down. Now, my dad handled it from that point on because he's retired and he had his own going in his garage. And after a few weeks, it dries out and it basically dehydrates after that. And the flavor gets more condensed and it goes inside the meat deeper and deeper. And after a few months, boom, you have capicola. So I'm going to post a picture of the capicola here. Oh man, it is so good. It came out great. So I don't have bread with it. Ideally, it would go really good with a nice Italian crusty bread, but I will have some cheese with it every now and then. Another cool thing that happened this week was I got a set of ergonomically designed handles for my home gym. I got this new attachment for my rack, and it's got a pulley system, so I have to put the plates on the pulley system, but it's got a pulley from the bottom and from the top, so I can do lat pull downs and I can do curls from the bottom, and I could also do horizontal rows with this. So I'm going to show you this handle right now. But when you grab this bar, it's first of all designed nice and comfortably to put your fingers around it, because this is all the grip you need. You don't have to make a tight fist around a bar. You just need this sort of gripping power, like you're hanging off a chin-up bar. So whether you're doing it in front of you and pulling it in, or above you and pulling it down, you want to do it in a way that's not going to bother your wrists and joints. And when you use these ergonomically designed handles, you don't realize how much those other handles that have been used for decades and decades, just the standard pieces of equipment at gyms, have really been bothering your joints. So I typically don't have any joint problem, but once I started using these, I was like, oh man, those feel so nice. And when they feel nice, you can actually pull or push more weight comfortably because your weak areas, say your grip and the smaller muscles in your forearms or your elbows, aren't getting strained. So now the big muscles can do their job properly. Now there's big ones like that, and there's narrow ones like this. And this is one, for example, if you look on this side, it's got this attachment, and this is where your thumb will go. And your hand grabs it like this. It can just pull down or pull in. Lots of these different bars you use, you're pretty much on like a 90-degree angle or a 45-degree angle. You're really stuck at however the bar is shaped. But these handles are so nice. So I have a series of 7 of them, and they're really nice for a variety of exercises. And I ordered them off Amazon. They are on the pricey side, but well worth the investment. You don't have to get all of them. You might only need 1 or 2 of them, but it'll make a world of difference when you're working out. Now, as far as plantar fasciitis goes, I developed plantar fasciitis back in, the year 2000. After I was in college, and I put on 50 pounds while I was in college because I was sitting on my butt all day, and then driving for another 2 hours a day, and then studying at night, I was sitting around a lot, and I wasn't exercising nearly as much as I used to, and I still had a really poor diet. What happened was I went from doing nothing for basically 2 years to standing all night long at this factory job. I had to keep this job until I passed my provincial exams. So I went from sitting for 2 years straight to standing for 2 years straight. So I kept this night job for a while I was building up my clientele as a massage therapist. I know now what I was doing then. I was leaning too far forward on my forefoot. You're supposed to put about 50% of the weight on your heel and 50% of your weight on your forefoot. Now, I was putting way too much pressure on my forefoot. And what that does is it takes the arch in your foot and it flattens it out. If this was the heel side of your arch and this was your toe side of your arch, what happens is I was putting too much pressure here and it was flattening my arch out. It was putting a lot of strain on the tendons and muscles in the bottom of my feet. Plantar fasciitis is a condition where it's the plantar side of your foot, the bottom, and the fascia, which is the soft tissue, is getting inflamed. And that's the itis, plantar fasciitis. So I had this horrible ankle pain when I'd wake up. And you take a few steps, and this is how you know you have plantar fasciitis. You take a few steps, and then you are in brutal pain. It feels like you're walking on glass. After you've loosened up and the muscles get a little bit of circulation back in them, after doing nothing for 8 hours or so, you start to notice the pain gets a little easier. But mine started getting so bad because, like a fool, I decided I'm going to start walking to work for some exercise. So within about a year and a half, I put on 100 pounds. I just ballooned up like a blowfish. I had to manage my weight better. So I thought I'll start walking to work. It's a couple kilometers to work. And that was aggravating my pre-existing plantar fasciitis. So I even got into jogging again, and which is a dumb thing to do if you have plantar fasciitis. It really is. But I didn't want to lose the gains I had made jogging before and during the beginning of college. And that's the interesting thing about joggers. Joggers often don't want to lose what they took a long time to build up to. So, and I built up to only 6K, but I really enjoyed jogging once I got up to that 6K. So I thought, okay, maybe I should get a new pair of shoes. Maybe that'll help my plantar fasciitis. Because I was massaging it and I was doing acupuncture and nothing was helping it. I used to use New Balance shoes, and for me, those worked. Now, it changes the way you land your foot because it's got certain support in the shoes that help you land on a proper manner to help take some of the strain off of your arch. But what happens is shoes wear out, and those were like $200 shoes in Canada. And I was like, oh man, like I don't want to do that every maybe 8 months to a year. I have to get new shoes that are that expensive. So I looked at another pair of shoes, and these were only $140. And I remember the salesman pointing out every little design feature on the shoe, saying, "Oh, you see this one little section here that's a different color gray." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's actually a little section that offers more support for the shoe." And I forget what brand it was, but he said these shoes, they're designed for running. They'll help you with plantar fasciitis, knee pain, back pain. And I said, good, because I've had shin splints in the past, and I have plantar fasciitis, and I had pretty bad back pain at the time. So I thought, okay, hopefully these shoes will work, and I'm not going to have to spend as much money every 6 to 8 months. So I got those shoes. As soon as I did one jog in them, I had shin splints come back, and I hadn't had shin splints in years. My shin splints came back, my plantar fasciitis went through the roof, and my back pain was killing me. And I thought, no way. I went back to my old worn out New Balance shoes, and everything went away. And I was like, okay, that can't be a coincidence. Tried it again in my new shoes, pain came right back. And I did that 3 times total. And every single time I went back to those new shoes, the pain came back. So it's not all about the shoes. Just because you're spending the right amount of money on shoes doesn't mean shoes are going to fix this problem. So I'm of the belief that arch supports aren't necessarily the best way to go to fix certain arch problems. If you have a weak arch, you need to strengthen your arch, in my opinion. You don't need to support the arch more. I know that's a bit of a controversial opinion because some people are all about arch supports, and I get that. And if you need an arch support to help correct your improper gait, then that's something different. But if you're using it just to support your arch, I'm not a big fan of that. And here's the reason why. You need to strengthen your arch. And if you have something under your foot in your shoe that is doing the job of your arch is eventually going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And your feet are going to get flatter and flatter and flatter. Now, I have flat feet, but there's 2 types of flat feet. There's the structural flat foot, where even when you hang your legs off, say, the edge of a table, you're going to have flat feet. But often when you stand with flat feet and you sit on a table and let your legs dangle and you get your arch back, it's still correctable. And if you have that, one of the best things you can do, in my opinion, is barefoot running. Now, I even barefoot run now, even though I've had plantar fasciitis. So this is how I manage my plantar fasciitis. When I was working nights at this job and I was dealing with my plantar fasciitis and I was building up my clientele, sometimes I fell asleep like a child in bed reading and I would have all my clothes on. So what happened was I was falling asleep wearing my slippers. And I noticed after a while of doing this, every now and then I would do this, I would wake up and my plantar fasciitis didn't bother me too much. And I noticed after a few times, I was like, I think my slippers had something to do with that. So keeping my feet warmer at night, I accidentally learned it was a way to manage my plantar fasciitis because I was doing everything to try and manage that. All the little things I learned in college, nothing was working for it. All the massage therapy and acupuncture helped a little bit. It wasn't really doing a lot. Now, what really made the difference was sleeping with socks and slippers on. So some people can't do that. It's just too uncomfortable for them. And they'd rather live with the pain. And I don't get this. If I'm in pain, I'll do whatever it takes to get rid of that pain. Simple as that. And if someone says, I can never sleep with my socks and slippers on, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I'm like, well, you're not in enough pain then. Because if your feet are bothering you that much, you'll do whatever it takes to get rid of that pain. And why make it get to the point where it's going to get that bad and you're eventually going to have to do something like this? Just deal with it now. It's easier to get to almost any problem in life when it's at a 2, 3, and 4 out of 10 versus a 7, 8, or 9 out of 10. Don't go and see your therapist or your doctor when you're already at an 8 or 9 out of 10 in excruciating pain. Go see your doctor or your therapist when you're at a 2, 3, and 4 and prevent it from getting that bad. So after a while, I started trying castor oil therapy, and that's what took it to the next level. Doing these castor oil compresses was really the most amazing thing I did for my feet. Now, I learned this in college and just blew it off. It's something I had to learn in my hydrotherapy course and thought, well, I'm not going to bother using that in my practice. So I'm not going to pretend and understand why castor oil has these magical properties that drags inflammation out of the body, but all I can say is that's what it does. And what you do is you take a rag, a flannel white rag. I assume you want it white so that way the dye doesn't come out of it. And you want it to be a cotton flannel, not a synthetic flannel. So you take this flannel white rag and you drizzle cold press organic castor oil on it. It's going to be thick like molasses. You can get it at most health food stores. And then what you do is you drizzle it on there, and you don't want it dripping wet. Be conservative the first couple times you do it. You smear it around, then you put your foot on that piece of material and wrap your heel and the sole of your foot. It doesn't have to go on the top of your foot, but work the rag up your ankle a little bit because that plantar fasciitis pain works its way up on often the inside of the ankle, but it varies for everyone. So you then take that wrapped ankle and foot and you place that on a pre-cut piece of saran wrap, and you wrap the saran wrap around that rag and make sure the saran wrap is overlapping the rag by about an inch or two, because what you don't want is the castor oil to leak out. You put too much castor oil on there, it's going to drizzle out because your body heat's going to warm it up, and then it's going to get kind of thin and runny, and it's going to make a mess. You don't want that. So you're going to have the rag, you're going to have the saran wrap around that, and then you put a sock over that. And once that's all covered up, you go to sleep for the night. And usually, I would say about 8 out of 10 clients of mine, this works well for their plantar fasciitis. It also works for tennis elbow and golfer's elbow as well. But what happens is, for some reason, it just draws that inflammation out. In my practice, I rarely treat people for plantar fasciitis anymore, because if they come in and they have that, I give them this homework and I tell them, come back in 2 weeks and we'll see how your foot is. Almost every single time, their pain has gone away. So most people don't want to make the dietary changes like carnivore to manage the inflammation in their diet. That's just too extreme for some people. But this is something that you can do whether you're on a carnivore diet or not. It's something that you can do to manage the inflammation in your feet, because carnivore can get rid of lots of inflammation in the body, but it doesn't mean you're immune to inflammation. So you can still have different musculoskeletal issues that can arise from here to there. You can still throw your shoulder out, you can still throw your back out, and you can still give yourself inflammation in certain areas like carpal tunnel syndrome or tennis elbow or in your feet. Here's the beauty of this treatment is it's a home remedy, and you can take that rag off in the morning and you put it in a baggie and put it back in the fridge. And that night, you take it out and you use it again. So you're not going to go through a ton of castor oil, because good quality castor oil is expensive. You don't want to use the cheap stuff. Use the good stuff. It's a lot per bottle, and a bottle's small, but you won't even probably finish the bottle because you don't want to load the rag up with castor oil and make it saturated. You just want to drizzle it on there so it's a nice coating. This is a multi-purpose home therapy you can do for different conditions where inflammation is involved. So like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on inflammation in the carnivore diet and how it works with inflammation. But for now, this is going to be something that leans more towards just a home remedy to deal with musculoskeletal issues. So even if you're not dealing with any of these problems, I can guarantee you know someone that is, or you have known someone, and this might be something you might want to pass along to them. So it's called cold press castor oil therapy, and it's really easy to do. White cotton flannel rag, piece of saran wrap, wrap it up, put a sock around it. If you're doing it on your arm, you cut a hole at the end of the sock so you can put it right up your arm. You should notice a good difference with it, and it'll save you a lot of money in therapy. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Tune in next time. If you like this video, keep in mind I put my videos out Thursday mornings and Sunday mornings at 7:30 in the morning. And give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and share this video with your friends if you think it might help them. Thanks a lot, and take care.